Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of the Sabbath Stones, and in the co-captain's chair, as always, Mr. Chris Alo. What's going on, man?
What's going on, Pete? Thanks for having me as always. Always a pleasure.
We're here a little quicker this time around because
Yes,
we
a lot
really
of
had something
Sabbath
to talk.
news. Yeah,
A lot of Sabbath news, and maybe we're a couple days late to the game, but when the weekend comes in between, busy doing stuff, and
it's
we
true.
figured we were just taping Monsters Den, and we figured let's stay on and talk a little bit more.
And this is a story that keeps sort of
Evolving.
developing. Yeah,
Yeah. So of course everybody knows they announced the geez, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, whatever it is, that Black Sabbath were going to do kind of their farewell gig in Birmingham on July 15th with
July
all these
5th.
other extra ba bands and acts and performers and whatnot. And the way they sold it to us in the beginning is that you got the four members, Bill Ward, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, Ozzy Osbourne, are going to probably play abbreviated sets. Black Sabbath, Ozzy's going to do the solo thing, plus Metallica, plus we'll go through the whole list. And then you start to hear things, well, maybe Ozzy can only participate and sing bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And then they keep adding more acts to the whole list. And before you know it, you start to wonder, it's like, is Sabbath even going to play anything on this? Is Ozzy going to sing anything? Is this like just like a tribute show? And tickets are not cheap. I'll kind of stop there. I'll let you jump in because why don't we kind of go back a little further to the beginning? And Chris has got the poster with all the
Sure.
list of who's playing and whatnot.
And
So
yeah, now I had mentioned on an episode or two ago of the Sabbath Stone that my source, who has a direct connection to the original Sabbath, had said, yeah, this was going to happen in the summer. It was going to be some huge acts, and the only one I knew that was going to play was Metallica. And yeah, everything did come true. July 5th in Villa Park in Birmingham,
oh,
and
fifth.
the
Did I say 15th? I'm sorry.
yeah, no worries. But the poster does read, I mean, the top of the poster is Black Sabbath. It says performances from Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne. And then under it, the next couple bands that are also, I guess, full band performances: Metallica, Guns N' Roses, Tool, Slayer, Pantera, Gojira, Alice in Chains, Hailstorm, Lamb of God, Anthrax, Mastodon, and Rival Sons. Now that right there is an unbelievable lineup. I mean, that
Yeah.
would be bigger than any Ozfest ever. And then under that, it says additional performances from, and I guess these would be like special guest stars that are going to pop in for a song. Andrew Watt, Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins, Chad Smith from Red Hot Chili Peppers, Dave Ellefson, formerly of Megadeth, David Draymond from Disturbed, Fred Durst, of all people, from Limp Bizkit, Lizzie Hale, which is funny because Hailstorm is already on here, Jake E. Lee, which is the shocker of shockers.
Happy to
Oh,
see him, but I
yes,
thought that Sharon wanted nothing to do with him. So
so that's a shocker. Jonathan Davis from Korn, KK Downing, formerly of Judas Priest, Mike Borden from Faith No More, also one-time Ozzy drummer and one-time Sabbath drummer, Papa from Ghost. This is the other big shocker, Rudy Sarzo, former Ozzy bass player. This one is like sticks out like a sore thumb. It's like, who invited this guy to the party? A great talent, a great name, but Sammy Hagar.
yeah,
Like, how did he? But okay. Sleep Token, Tom Morello, Vernon Reed from Living Color, the guy that I just talked about on last month's episode, who did vocals for Sabbath when they were rehearsing, Whitfield Crane from Ugly Kid Joe. And this is another oddball one, Wolfgang Van Halen. Now, the whole show is hosted by Jason Momoa, who's Aquaman. And of course, all proceeds will be donated to the following charities, which is Cure Parkinson's, Birmingham Children's Hospital, and Acorns Children's Hospice, a children's hospice supported by Aston Villa. So, I mean, it's an unbelievable lineup. Saturday, July 5th. I myself did try to get tickets 3 days in a row. I got up at 4:30 in the morning all 3 days. The first day, I could only get standing general admission. So, Pete, I got the olds. I'm like, I'm not
Ain't
standing.
happening.
I'm not flying halfway around the world and standing for 13 hours. So I passed on that. The second sale came up, and they were $800 a ticket. They were literally the top of the football stadium. They were the worst seats in the house, but you had to buy two, and you included a free night at a hotel. But I'm like, it's really not free. And I'm like, this is completely fucking pointless because at the time, the concert started at noon and the check-in hotel is 3 o'clock. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do with my fucking luggage?
Have it sit there amongst all these thousands of people, right?
Plus, I'm like, it's the worst seats in the house. Again, I'm not flying halfway around the world for the worst seats in the house. And then the actual day of the show, I got completely the tickets. The day the actual tickets went on sale, I got shut out. So I'm like, okay, I've pretty much decided. I guess I'm not going. I'll have to just stick with my 42 Black Sabbath concerts in 5 different countries. So that'll have to suffice. But who's ever going? Great, have a good time. But yes, then the recent news is that, right, Ozzy said on Ozzy Speaks to Billy Morrison that now this is after everything is announced and after the tickets went on sale and instantly sold out. Ozzy said, yeah, he's not playing a set with Sabbath. He said, I'm going to do little bits and pieces of what I'm comfortable with, which, wow, that sounds awful. To me, that reminds me of what Ozzy did a month or two ago when he was inducted as a solo artist into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I'm sure you saw that, Pete. They had, for those who didn't see it, they had Ozzy in a throne because he can't walk. And they had a whole band and they had singers on stage, each doing a different song. They had Maynard from Tool, Jelly Roll, and Billy Idol, and they each did a piece of an Ozzy song. I think it was Crazy Train, Mama, I'm Coming Home, and No More Tears, I think. That's just from memory. And each singer sang the song, and Ozzy had a microphone, and he would just sort of add a vocal line here. He would sing a little bit of the chorus, but it was like hardly any contribution. You could just barely hear it. So it's like, wait,
He just physically can't anymore.
But again, what's crazy is before the tickets went on sale, Sharon Osbourne said, yeah, Ozzy can't walk, but his voice is as strong as it's ever been.
Until they got that sellout.
Yeah, and then she said it's going to be very difficult for him to sing because anything is difficult now. And then, another day later, it was, this interview comes out that's Ozzy. I can only do bits and pieces. So it's like, wow.
I mean, we all love Ozzy.
Yeah.
But it's no secret that he is not in a good place health-wise.
Right.
He's been going through some serious shit and his health is deteriorating quickly. So, I mean, using our brains, right? When they announced this thing, you had to wonder, can Ozzy really even do this? I mean, you and I talked about it like 2 months ago on this
100%.
show. We said, what can we really expect from these guys at this point? Especially from him. Paranoid, Iron Man, War Pigs, and maybe Children of the Grave or the title or Black Sabbath, right?
Right.
Maybe you'll get that. That's probably it. Is he going to have anything left to do the solo show, or solo set? Who knows? But for me, once I saw, because again, trust me, correct me if I'm wrong here, but this is like a 1-day event.
Yeah, it's a 1-day event.
Fuck are all of these artists going to play in like? There's nobody's doing full sets here. Right. There's not enough time for it.
Now, when the show was initially announced, and it had a start time of noon, and it was less artists and less special guests.
You could see it. You could see it then, right?
I thought, okay, maybe everybody will do like 3 or 4 songs. Maybe Metallica will do like one, Master of Puppets, Enter Sandman, and they'll do a
Sabbath
sabracadabra.
song. Yeah.
Everybody will do an abbreviated set of 3-4 songs, which include a Sabbath cover. And then I thought maybe Ozzy would do 2 or 3 solo songs. And yeah, to cap off the night, he would do 3, maybe 4 songs with the original Sabbath. But right now that they added all these other acts, now that they added all these other special guests, it's apparent they didn't know really from the get-go what they were truly setting up, because now they pushed the start time earlier. It went from noon to 10 a.m. Now, from what I heard as well, Lamb of God just said, okay, we're doing 2 songs. We're going to do 1 original and 1 Black Sabbath cover.
So they're flying all these people over there to basically play a song or two.
Right. Yeah,
Wow.
like the special guests. I'm going to assume they're going to just sit in with some of these other bands. Sharon did say, yeah, there's going to be some super groups at times. The one that she did mention was it was going to be Tom Morello playing with Billy Corgan and shit, who was the drummer? I think there was a drummer too
Mike
that was
Gordon, maybe.
no, the drummer Danny Carey from Tool.
Oh, from Tool. Yeah, yeah.
She mentioned him, which was interesting because I don't think he was originally on the list. But then Tool as a band was just recently added.
Yeah.
So I guess there'll be some super group connections as well. Yeah, I expect a lot of Sabbath covers to be played, which I think is really the coolest part of the show. I would personally like to see that. But yeah, the Sabbath, Ozzy saying, well, he's not even really doing a set now with Sabbath. To me, that sort of lessens the blow now of not seeing this in person. And there have been many people, Pete, that have been saying, Jesus Christ, Ozzy can't walk, Ozzy can't sing. There's still rumors about Bill Ward being in very poor health. Why the fuck are you guys doing this now?
Right.
You should have done this 7 years ago.
Of course. Of course. Yeah. And
So,
here's the other thing too. It's the middle of it's third week in February.
yeah.
There's still a bunch of months left between now and then. What happens if between now and then one or both of those guys can't even do the gig at all?
Oh, I bet you they still do it. I 100% would not be surprised if they just have Ozzy do a video message or something like that, because it really sounds like Ozzy's barely performing.
I mean, you saw the interview the other day, right? It was Sharon and Tony talking
Yes,
about the whole thing. Ozzy's not
100%.
with them.
Ozzy was not there. Nobody else was there.
Yeah.
But
Um,
yeah, I
um,
don't know. So
and my other
the
question
show,
too,
go ahead.
you got all this entire day. You got all these artists, and like we said, we're expecting that they're all going to play a Black Sabbath song in their little abbreviated sets. Are they only drawn from the Ozzy years?
Oh, you
All those
listen.
classic songs are going to get eaten up very quickly. So before, it's like, is nobody going to play a Dio era song? Is nobody Tony Martin, Gillan,
Your
Glenn,
buddy,
is all that stuff
is it
off limits?
Phil Aston did the video the other day,
Yes.
which I love his shows. He's great. And he said, yeah, Sharon, if you're listening, you should absolutely, let Tony Martin and Glenn Hughes and
Ian
Ian Gillan.
Gillan. Yeah.
No fucking way.
But it would
Pigs
be the
will.
right thing to do.
It would be the right thing to do, but when has Sharon Osbourne
Oh, she's not
ever
going to do it. Yeah.
done the right thing?
No.
No fucking way. In her world, there is no Black Sabbath without Ozzy Osbourne.
Yep.
There is no, and I put it on Phil's Facebook page or his YouTube. I'm like, Phil, I love your sentiments. I love your idea, but there is no fucking way she will let any non-Sabbath, non-Ozzy songs be performed. I mean, there was 2 Black Sabbath tribute albums released in the 90s, both of which that sold well, and there were purposely no songs on there that were not released by the original 4 members of Black Sabbath. Yeah. There's no fucking way, no fucking way, no fucking way. A buddy of mine's like, hey, well, this is the perfect time for the Ronnie James Dio hologram. I'm like, are you fucking out of your mind? No way. Pigs will fly out of my ass before that fucking happens.
especially not with him. I think she would rather someone get up there and sing
Oh,
"Disturbing the Priest" or "Zero the Hero"
yes,
than she would
100%. Bring
Neil.
out Ian Gillan to do Zero the Hero in a million years before anything to do with Ronnie James Dio.
Yeah,
No, no doubt. I
yeah,
mean, it really sucks too, because I'm like, wait, when I was thinking about buying tickets, I was like, I've seen Ozzy, solo, I think like 15, 16 times. I only saw him once though with Jake E. Lee, and I never saw him with Rudy Sarzo. Like, this is really cool, to see Jake and Ozzy hopefully do Bark at the Moon, and hopefully Rudy Sarzo would be there. But I'm like, oh, are we not even gonna get that now? I wouldn't think.
yeah. I don't know. To me, it's like, what's the point of having both of those guys there unless they're going to do that stuff? Because quite frankly,
100%.
do we really want to see Rudy, Jake up there singing with Axl Rose? No.
Right. You're
What's
right. It
the
makes
point
no
of that?
fucking point. And
Yeah.
it's so funny because this is my analogy to take it totally off track, but my analogy with when Disney started making the Star Wars movies. I was like, when they did the fucking Force Awakens, we brought all the original cast back, but Disney purposely never gave us one scene with all the original cast members. And my analogy back then, and that was like 15 years ago, I was like, this is like if all the Beatles were alive, all four members, and you do this big Beatles tribute concert, but you never have all four guys on stage at the same time. You have Paul do
Pointless.
one song with this guy, John does a song with this other guy, but you never have them on stage together.
It's
And that
pointless.
this is exactly that.
Yeah. But it's just amazing how like quickly everything has been backtracked. You know, people were so psyched for this when they first announced it.
Oh yeah.
Within a week, now everybody's kind of because you got to wonder about the people who forked over thousands of dollars
Oh yeah.
to go to this thing, and now they're kind of like, am I
I mean,
even
Pete,
see? You
the
know,
the seats that I looked at, that included the one night hotel, they were the worst seats in the house, and they were $800 a piece. And I'm like, okay, that's $1,600 for two, but airfare is $1,000 a person.
yep,
So now we're looking at two, three, that's 3,600, not including
food
you
and
know
everything else,
food and extra nights at the hotel, because I'm not just go. You can't just fly in for the one night. It's
right?
halfway around the world. So I'm like, this is going to be a $6,000, $7,000 trip, and now I'm not even getting the original Sabbath playing together.
See Ozzy sing a couple verses here and there,
Right?
maybe.
Maybe Ozzy will hum the melody to Iron Man
Yeah.
or War Pigs. I was like, this is crazy. And shout out to Ralph, King Ralph. He mentioned something, and I was like, holy shit, you're right. Ralph mentioned, which I didn't connect the dots, but I'm like, Jesus Christ, he's right. I was on the Motorhead cruise, which was, years ago, and it was a few weeks before Lemmy passed away. And he was really sick. And they literally propped him up on the boat, and his voice was so labored, and he was like a zombie. And it was the two worst. I seen Motorhead 28 times. These were the two worst Motorhead performances I have ever seen. It was so bad that I had tickets to see Motorhead on their biggest headlining show in America ever. They were headlining Jones Beach a couple weeks later after the cruise. And that memory of Lemmy being like a zombie on stage was so bad. I was like, unless Lemmy makes a recovery, I will never see Lemmy again,
Yeah.
because this is such an awful memory. And when Ralph mentioned it the other day, I was like, holy shit, yeah, this could be the Ozzy scenario to that. And of course,
So do
Ozzy and
you
Lemmy were.
think that they are rushing this because they don't think either he has too long left to live or he's going to be completely incapacitated very, very soon?
It
And they
could be.
figure this is going to be the last attempt that we can get him in front of fans because after this, that's it. It's done.
It certainly could be. I mean, it was what, maybe a year or so ago, where it was in Birmingham, and they did the British Olympics
Yeah.
in Birmingham, and it was Tony Iommi and friends or something. Tony opened the festival, and then at the end it was Tony and Ozzy and what's his name, the son from Yes on bass, and
Oh, Adam
Tom
Wakeman was
Adam Wakeman was on bass because Geezer was sick and Tommy Clufetos. And it was obvious that Ozzy was lip syncing, and they actually had a harness to
yeah,
hold Ozzy up.
in like this chair. He was in, like standing
Yes,
in a chair or something like that. Yeah,
totally.
it
So I
looked it
mean,
looked weird. It
it
really looked
looked weird. He was obvious he was lip syncing, and yeah, I think they are trying to get this done as quick as possible because they know they're on borrowed time. But right, it does, Pete. It seems like it's too late. Like, oh my God, the guy can't walk. He can't sing. I mean, all of us have burned in our memory the memory of Ozzy Osbourne hunched over, but prowling back and forth on the stage, yelling, "Go crazy!" and flashing the peace signs and doing the jumping jacks and throwing the buckets of water. And that's Ozzy Osbourne, man. This is
and
him
even,
sitting in the throne
even
mumbling is,
it's yeah, it's hard to take. I mean, even on on the end tour, right? I saw that last show at Madison Square Garden. What was
yeah,
that
I was there.
2015? Seemed like a
2016, I believe.
2016. And even then you could tell he wasn't doing great, but he had this little area that he would
Yep.
walk back and forth. He was clapping, he was, singing pretty good and throwing the water and stuff. So, but that was God, 8, 9 years ago already
Oh,
now.
it's
So
crazy. It's that long ago already.
yeah, I know it's just nuts. And yeah, you're right. They waited way too
They
long for it.
waited for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know the politics involved. And of course, Sharon now and Ozzy do own half of the Black Sabbath name, so that complicates things.
Yeah.
But ironically, I was just telling somebody the story, and I might have mentioned this on a previous Sabbath episode. Ozzy's last big announced concert was that Power Trip Festival last year.
Yep.
But what happened was when the promoters were putting this show together, they initially reached out to Tony Iommi because they wanted to do a Sabbath reunion there in California. Thank God they didn't because I would have totally bought tickets for that because tickets for that was much easier to get a hold of.
Oh, for sure.
Um, but what happened was at that time, Tony was like, he immediately turned it down. And he said this on the Eddie Trunk show because he's like, Ozzy's not well enough. And so Eddie Trunk clarified. He goes, okay, so the offer came to you and it stopped with you. He goes, oh, yeah. He goes, I knew Ozzy wasn't well enough. Ironically, then, the promoters then turned to Ozzy as a solo act and asked him to perform, of course, asked Sharon to have him perform as a solo act. He said yes, I'm sure took a retainer, and then canceled a week before, and they had to get Judas Priest to fill in.
Yep. Yep.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's everything leading up to this just leads you to believe that there was no way they were going to be able to pull this off.
no.
Um, yeah, it's
So
a shame.
maybe we were foolish to think that Ozzy could have done even sitting in a throne. He could have done a couple songs, but again, Sharon told us his voice is as strong as it's ever been, which I kind of laughed because I'm like, well, listen, Ozzy's voice has never been the strongest, but okay, we're gonna go with that statement.
Yeah, but I mean, he's been more than passable for a long, and you got to look at recent memory. Look what Genesis did with Phil Collins.
100%.
He sat out there in a chair every single night of that tour recently, and most people his voice is not what it was clearly,
Right.
but he's at least he made a go of it, and
He made an effort of it and
I don't
did
know that
one
he
last round and
yeah, one last round, then they were able to do it. So I think the general consensus was that, well, Ozzy also is having all these issues, so if at least he can sit in a chair and be able to sing, it'll be okay.
right.
But he can't. Apparently, even sitting in the chair is like,
Can't do that. Yeah.
no.
And again, yes, maybe it should have been the telltale sign of, okay, Ozzy's not at the press conference here at the football stadium. It's just Sharon and Tony. That's a little suspect.
It's a little alarming. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, from my source who originally told me about this concert a couple months ago, and then there is a connection to Bill Ward, and I've been hearing for months Bill Ward's health is not well. And I've heard the rumor that Bill Ward is going to go to the show, but maybe he's not even really going to play. Maybe they're going to put up there two drummers up there. Who knows?
Yeah. And it's still a few months away. That's why I think, man, a
That's the
lot can
thing, right?
happen
Because
between now
we're
and then.
what we got almost 5 months, 4.5 months.
Yeah. A lot can happen in that
A
time.
lot can happen,
Yeah. You
and
got to,
I wouldn't be surprised if they just added Tool, Guns N' Roses, and Rival Sons, and a whole bunch of these other special guests were just added. I would not be surprised if they held back a few names. Like I'm like, how is Dave Grohl not on here?
yeah. Yeah.
And and just a couple other big random names that they're
You
gonna
have to
throw out there.
wonder if the mentality is, all right, let's keep adding more and more big names because in the end, if the
Yes,
band or Ozzy really can't play it all, maybe people will be forgiven because we'll just turn it into this gigantic all-star tribute to one of the greatest bands of all time, and people won't be too upset about that.
that's exactly where I think this is headed. It's going to be the smokescreen.
Yeah.
And listen, it's still going to be a great show,
Because
but
Tony's going to play most of the day anyway, right?
yes,
You know that.
but is he? I would hope. I would hope more than just a song or two.
Yeah.
Because I did think about that too. I'm like, all right, the for me personally, yeah, to see Tony Iommi and Geezer Butler on stage again, that was the selling point. But I'm like, maybe if Tony and Geezer are only going to do a song or two. I mean, it's at Christmas time. I heard Geezer Butler interviewed on Eddie Trunk, and he said he is done. He's like, Eddie, I am exhausted now when I play. He said, he goes, I can't play more than 3 songs now. That's my max.
Wow.
Because he had that other band, what, 2, 3 years ago.
Didn't go anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, I'm too old. I can't do this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how old is Geezer now? 76, 77,
Gotta be. I mean, Tony Iommi just turned
77.
77, what,
Yeah.
this week?
Yep. Yep.
I mean, that's they're
Yesterday.
all,
Yesterday.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're all getting up there. So, but yeah, it really seems like, wow, guys, this is really cool. Sharon said, yeah, it's nice to have all our friends coming out, but it's like, geez, you should have done this a couple years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of, yeah, and the whole issue, the whole issue originally was that, what's going on with Bill, what was the issue there that stopped him from being on the end tour. And now it's more about Ozzy's health than anything else, or it might still, Bill's health might be a part of it too. But yeah, they waited way too long.
Yeah,
Too many years have gone on since that tour ended. What they should have done is like 2, 3 years after that final tour, let's put the nail on the coffin and really, let Sabbath go out with a bang. We'll get the 4 original guys. We'll do this big all-star thing, this big show, and that'll be it.
yeah.
Now they're scrambling to do this, and there's just so many ifs. Yeah.
And
Well,
now, of course, a lot of people are asking, okay, I couldn't get tickets. I couldn't go around the world. Is this going to be streaming somewhere? Is there going to be a pay-per-view? Is somebody going to film this for a Blu-ray? Nobody knows yet, but of course, I mean, the tickets are already sold. I mean, people were asking that question before the
before.
tickets even went on sale. And I was like, well, it would be ridiculous to announce that before you put the tickets on sale, because then a certain amount of people say, well, screw it, I'll just stay home.
It's at home, yeah. Yeah, my guess is you won't hear anything about that till probably like maybe May
Yes,
or
once
early
it gets
June.
closer.
Yeah, once you get closer.
But
So
I could certainly see it. I could see some kind of streaming and or pay-per-view. Maybe they would do the whole thing, but it's a long show.
it's a long day.
Like I said, originally Ticketmaster in the UK said the show was going to start at noon and it was going to end at either 10:30 or 11:30 UK time. And now they pushed it back once they added these couple extra acts. Now they pushed it back till 10 a.m. So we're talking a 13-hour show.
Yeah, it's full. It's
Yeah. And I've heard a
yeah.
lot of,
And
I've heard a lot of,
they're not gonna do a pay-per-view for 13 hours. That's not gonna
I wouldn't think. But, then again, years ago, they did do Woodstock. That was like 18 hours a day for 3 days.
Yeah, true.
I mean, that was what, 25, 30 years ago?
Yeah. I could see what they maybe would do is because you got to figure all the bigger acts are going to go on in the evening. So what they probably might do if they're going to do a pay-per-view, it's like starting at like 6 or 7 p.m. until it
They could do
finishes
that.
for, 49.95, or I'm sure it'll be more than that.
Yeah,
You get to watch all like the headliner acts. So if you're there to see like Lamb of God and Mastodon and all, you're probably not going to catch them because they'll be
right.
earlier in the day. But if, Metallica and potentially Sabbath or Ozzy and a handful of others, you'll see those in the evening
Yeah,
during the broadcast. I don't know. We'll see.
yeah. It's gonna be very interesting. But yeah,
Yeah.
the Sabbath part is the big question mark.
Yeah. And ultimately the sad part for us longtime loyal fans is like, we are concerned about Ozzy and his health. We are concerned about all four guys actually, because they're getting up there in age, and I think you hate to see this great career go out on this kind of sad note, right? 'Cause, I mean, it's the way it goes, unfortunately, but it seems like we wanted Sabbath to go out with a bang, which I think they did on the end tour. I saw
Yeah,
it twice. I thought, I was like, all right. But you wanted this to be like this final great spectacle to close the book on the career of this band. And now it's kind of like, is that really going to be how it goes? I don't know.
yeah. I mean, it's true too. If you look at it, I mean, Ozzy Osbourne has now done four farewell tours.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
was two Black Sabbath farewell tours, and he did two Ozzy Osbourne solo farewell tours. But nobody ever believed that any of them were the end. But finally now, because of Ozzy's state, everybody really does believe this is it.
Oh, this is
Like
it. Yeah, this is it.
we're done here. I
Yeah,
mean, Sharon
there's
has
going to be
said
no
it, but this
album. There's going to be no nothing. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. All right. Well, we'll wait and see how this whole story continues to unfold and evolve, because I'm
yeah.
sure we haven't heard the last of this.
No,
Like we
no.
said, we have
Like you
almost
said,
5 months.
yeah.
So,
We'll give updates as it goes.
yeah. So tune in for additional episodes of the Sabbath Stones on the ongoing story of the final. What is this called again?
The shit back to the beginning,
Back to the beginning. So, yeah.
which is ironic because it's like, well, wait, like that would have been a perfect name if they were like playing a club, but
Yeah.
you're doing this giant football stadium with all these other acts, but also, well, Sabbath isn't really even going to play technically, so yeah,
If it
yeah.
was really truly back to the beginning, maybe they'd go and play the whole first album and be like, "Thank you, good night." But that's clearly
Which
not going
is,
to happen.
that is a thing that Ozzy had said maybe a year or so ago when he was saying he would love to do, and I'm sure something like this did take a long time to put together. And he put the feelers out there in the press that, he would love to do one last gig with the original lineup. And that he said something like whether it would be a big stadium show or even just the four of us unannounced in a club.
Yeah. Well, you and I talked, I think, on the last episode or the one before. I would have been perfectly happy with just having them go into like a studio and having them all just hook up all their equipment and play like a little live set in the studio. Someone records it. There's your pay-per-view. Them playing, whatever, 45 minutes an hour.
Right.
It can have edits because so they could, kind of like what the ZZ Top did with that documentary that they did recently where they
And
had this whole performance and it was fine, right? It was,
yeah, well, and Sabbath technically did that on
yeah,
uh, the last night of the tour was in Birmingham, and then they put Geezer, Tony, and Ozzy right in a studio with Tommy Clufetos, and
yeah,
they ran through a couple songs, and they just filmed them.
yeah. I would have been happy with
So
that. I would have been
yeah,
totally fine with that. No, they didn't ask us. Maybe
no,
they should have.
no, they didn't. It's very curious to see how this is going to play out.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, like I said, we have quite a few months to go, and I'm sure we'll be talking about this again. So,
Oh, no doubt.
so till next time, everybody, let us know what your impressions are of this ongoing story with Black Sabbath down in the comments below, and we'll see you next time here on the Sabbath Stones. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, all together.
All the damn
all the damn
time.
time. For Chris Alo, I'm Pete Pardo. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody, and we'll see you soon here with more stuff. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.